Hello and welcome to the Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise Legacy Club race. My name is Rex Arul. I'm joined by PK4787. PK, are you excited for tonight's race? Because I know I am.
Oh, I am absolutely thrilled, not just to be here in the booth with you, but that I don't have to play these flags, and instead we get to just observe the absolute mayhem that is what these constantly updating legacy flags have turned into. There are a lot of things going on. Is there anything that strikes you as something that we should touch upon first? Because I'm sure we're going to go over a lot of different things over the course of this evening.
There are a lot of things. I think a couple of the ones that strike out to me as interesting is the key items are about as frantic as they can be, with K main, summon, moontrap, and unsafe all active at the same time. That's just wild. But we also have vanilla characters on. We got some vanilla built into the system tonight.
Yeah, vanilla characters. The trap chests are also going to be vanilla. So the key items can be in trap chests. There's no early access to the underground guaranteed, but if you happen to remember where those trap chests are all located, those have not been randomized either.
Yeah, in addition, we still have vanilla fuchsia and agility anchoring on. So those are things that have been present in the legacy race for quite a while now, a lot of that. But still, like, everything added together, I think the vanilla characters is a real twist, especially since we still have that objective of getting Rosa, which we know now, if you find the sand ruby or the earth crystal, you can complete that. But we've got some other objectives, some of them random ones that we can see on the screen now. And so that's pretty interesting too, including conquering the vanilla Mazamune altar. That's where Ogopogo lives in the vanilla game. That is not an easy boss spot.
No, this is an interesting sort of grab bag here. There are very few key items that we are going to be looking for. But as you mentioned, Rosa is gated with this vanilla character, is guaranteed to be found behind the earth crystal and the sand ruby. But other than that, it looks like you really just got to get underground and find a darkness crystal. And that's it as far as key items are concerned.
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of interesting when you see like so many key items that are available in weird places, but there's not a whole lot that you need to do. We still have another big one is still that objective number 1, complete the Giant of Babel. So we're going to have at least 3 difficult boss spots to complete. And remember, we still have no experience for random.
100%. This giant is no joke. The one benefit to this whole vanilla characters and the vanilla foo thing is when you have access to the giant, it means you have access to that lunar dais, and that means you get 1 free Fusoya with all of the spells in the seed. So that might help out at least a little bit, depending on who we run into in the giant up there.
Yeah, there are definitely some bosses that can be extremely scary in both of the boss positions in the Giants. So it's going to be interesting to see when people want to, like, depending on when the Darkness Crystal is found and when people want to dip their toes into that to check and see what's that first boss going to be. What am I going to need to have in order to defeat that boss? And remember, they'll know that there's yet another boss after that, which kind of has a different sort of skills required to defeat depending on what boss is there. But we're off.
Yeah, we are moving ahead. We have Asura dropping off some Dragoon gear. Maybe not the highest tier item, but we are on T Wildish here, and Adamants are on. And knowing how many trap chests we might see get open, we might have some very, very powerful either mages or berserkers, depending what route anyone wants to go. There is that other vanilla flag of vanilla agility on, so we'll have to see how long Cecil stays in this party as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Unlike other characters who come and go, in the vanilla game, Cecil's always in your party, so there's not going to be an opportunity to pick up another one later.
And it looks like Woo Bear, we were discussing this before, but one of the convenient parts of having this vanilla trap chests on is somewhere like this middle area of Castle Eblin is guaranteed to not have a single trap chest, and in T Wildish it has the potential of very high tier loot.
Yeah, that's a good point. A very strong place, and since you know where the trap chests are, you can just get that loot for free. Meanwhile, Klopfer heading right over to Mysidia to pick up a pair of mages right away, and we've got a very balanced party on Klopfer's side. Right away, we've got the Dragoon Cane, who all this good equipment can be used on for the most part. He's just got a big equipment draw in general, and some powerful mages that can be used. And looks like we're going to add another one because he's heading to the Watery Cave where he can pick up Tella.
Yeah, knowing Tella is there, we get a white spear as well. Woo Bear also found a white spear. This Tella, early access to the exit spell. I'm always a big fan of that. And this, again, in T Wildish, as we saw in the Zemus Zone 3, this is a very concentrated area with some good loot. But so those twins early, you have access to Yang early. The twin magic spell can be really convenient to have. But I mean, Rex, when you do things like this, are you thinking I want to go with berserkers, or are you thinking, let's get some mages, or are we just gonna look around and see what gear we find?
It might have to do with the gear, but I think like a hybrid strategy, knowing that we have to fight 3 like top tier bosses and then Zeramus on top of all of that, I like to have my options as wide as possible. And so going with a more of a balanced party of a couple people who can zerk up and some spellcasters that can do some damage as well, I think seems to be pretty good. Once we get that Darkness Crystal, I would probably look at ditching Tella for Fusia and have him and Palom be there for black magic once we get Rosa for white magic, and have Kane and either Edge or maybe Yang for the attackers, unless you find like an Excalibur or a Crystal Sword. Then I'd love to keep Cecil around.
Yeah, and the more trap chests they end up doing, the higher the likelihood of finding one of those Crystal Swords. I think we've already seen a Zeus Gauntlet, a White Spear. So that Zerker half of that hybrid strat is pretty happy right now gear-wise.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that's the advantage of the T Wildish, is you can get all the stuff, all the gear, and that can kind of guide you as to which characters you want to have in your party as far as the berserking goes. And with vanilla characters, you know where to pick them up too. So it's just kind of nice all around. Like, we found that White Spear. We've already got Kane, so that's good. If we find like a Thunderclaw or a Cat Claw somewhere, then it's like, oh, I might want Yang. If I find long swords, then I'm like, oh, I might want Edge. So you can really kind of, unlike with randomized characters where you have to hope you find both of them together, this time you know exactly where the character is, and so you can be a little bit more choosy as to who you want to have.
Yeah, and one other thing to point out, the buy flag is not on, so you can always do something like ditch that Cecil for the time being, and if you happen to get that Crystal Sword, you can always just run right back and add him back into the party. But it's all going to be based on the loot here. There is a specific flag on, I think you'd mentioned earlier, that's going to prevent you from getting just about anything from shops.
Yeah, S cabins, which means the only thing that you're going to be able to buy in shops are cabins. So you can't get more of your gear by saving money, and like you're not going to find adamant armors in shops this time around.
No, there are only cabins. You can buy all the cabins you want, but you're only going to get cabins from these shops, armor shops, item shops, weapon shops. There's only cabin stock right now for sale.
And that's really interesting because it means that the value of like opening extra chests for loot that you could sell to buy things just isn't there in this seed. But it's kind of balanced because you still have to open a lot of chests because we do have the P chests flag on tonight, so passes can be found in random chests. So it's yet another push and pull dilemma, and I think that's what's going to make this race really interesting. We've got a lot of little things like that where you're not really incentivized to do something, but you still have to do it anyways.
Yeah, there are just these flags have transformed into really just its own incredibly singular thing that I don't think even something like Community Race, have we seen this many flags turned on and working this different way. The Witchburn flag was on there as well, which was an interesting burn.
Yeah, you're not going to use exit out of this one now. Yeah, of course, Witchburn replacing the Wyvern's opening Mega Nuke with a random attack, and this time it was a mute spell attack affecting the entire party.
Yeah, and with just Kane, it is why you sort of want that balanced attack. That immediately negated, the opportunity to use that twin spell, but did well to get through it. Didn't pick up the Yang, but this is definitely you're just trying to get some levels on these early characters here, just moving forward.
Yeah, had that Wyvern been at one of the end game boss places that we've been talking about, that could really wreck a party if you're not balanced enough to handle it. So luckily it's early, so you've got a little bit more, there's not a lot of HP that you got to carve through in this spot. So not too dangerous, but a little bit of a reminder that, Kane is pretty useful here.
Yeah, and that mute spell preventing Tella from casting the exit. So Klopfer got some good loot from that west side of Hobbs, but he's gonna have to walk it out if you want to keep it.
Yeah, and so we also we were talking over it, but both of our runners have completed the Antlion Cave, defeated the evil wall at the bottom there to complete objective number 2, and now by defeating the Wyvern, you release the hostage, which was Yang, on top of Mount Hobbs. And so objective number 5 is also completed by both of the runners. So both making some good progress on some of the early objectives that we have in this run.
Yeah, and really, as we mentioned, I've run a couple races on these flags, and Dwarf Castle is actually, twofold something I like to do. Another thing that is on is the warp glitch, which allows you to check that item at Luca Cave. But then that level 1 Rydia, I've been a big fan of, because level 1 Rydia is quite slow if you're looking for an anchor, and you know exactly where to get her.
That's absolutely true. I mean, you could also get her with a package if you find that. But that would be giving up the potential of Cecil. And so that's always, it's again that balance. Do you want the potential power of a Crystal Sword Cecil in your party, or do you want the reliability of a level 1 Rydia anchor? Both of them are very useful to have in a party. And it kind of depends. I still think it depends on what gear we find.
Yeah, I think assuming we're going to end up seeing these caves or these Castle Evelyn checks, some of the gear you pull out of there is definitely going to inform your decision. We just saw a Masamune there, so that Edge we know exactly where Edge is waiting, but it depends on if our underground access ends up being the hook, or if we are lucky enough to find a magma key.
If I've got a Masamune sitting in my inventory, and I know that there's an Edge in Evelyn Cave, which we do because of vanilla characters, I think it's probably better to get that hook instead of a magma key. I don't know. That's just me, though.
I mean, if it ends up being a hook route, I certainly would be. I would be more than content with that. Just knowing exactly for that reason that it looks like there's a long sword and a Masamune, so that Edge could very, very quickly start turning the balance in your favor. I wouldn't mind most hook bosses with that gear.
No doubt. That's going to be a very powerful ninja, should that hook be found. But we're still dry of key items, all things considered, because that's one of the things that you see when you've got the K-Maid, Trap, Summon, Moon, all of those options. There's still not a whole lot of key items in the overworld, and they're all less likely to have a key item in it now.
Yeah, and it looks like Klopfer maybe there is no demist hunt. Their Bedward will potentially have a key item for us, and then if you're feeling real spicy, you can go right on up and hit that vanilla flame dog chest as well. So maybe this will give us some information.
It'll also be interesting when the runners feel like they're strong enough to try to take on the trap chest in Castle Evelyn, because that's another place where there's some potential key items as well. And with K unsafe, that means that we could be looking at a situation where you have to go to the moon before we have our underground access too. So that's a real possibility as well.
Yeah, as someone who's run a couple of these, and now that I get to commentate, that is certainly what I am hoping for, is that the underground access is gated somewhere up on the moon. Because really, once you have the moon in the underground, you are, quote unquote, in go mode. It's not going to be too quick of a go mode, considering you're still got to get through that Masamune altar and complete the giant.
And looks like Klopfer did make that decision that you mentioned to go up and fight that flame dog. And it was a gear. It was not a key item. I did not see it because it was very fast. But still no key items found. Woobear, meanwhile, on Mount Ordeals, wants to get Tella the full spell list and turn Cecil into a paladin. The back attack spot appears to be the Kaipo infight. So that's not a very difficult fight in this spot, I don't think.
No, there are certainly more frustrating spots, more frustrating bosses you can hit with that back attack. I don't dislike that Flame Dog play, because it's the vanilla chest. It's really not quite as long as if it's randomized, and it could be, all the way up by that Magus Sister spot. So it is a pretty quick check.
I agree. And since you're already incentivized to go to Toria early to get that Bedward check, which ended up just being a ribbon. Very good piece of gear, but still not the key item we're looking for. You might as well do both of them at the same time. It makes a lot of sense.
Yep. The glory of these vanilla characters and free characters is you get 2 Tellas in case one breaks down, or if with this buy flag not being on, you could let one Tella gain a decent amount of XP, and if you want to keep that second one back, you have a secondary anchor just kind of waiting with these 2 guaranteed Tellas.
Yeah, that's another option. In addition to that level 1 Rydia, that could be in anybody's pocket if they want to, once we get underground access as well. There's a lot of ways that you can save a character specifically for that, if that's what you want to do. Again, it's going to depend on how much our runners want to keep Cecil, because anchors mean nothing as long as Cecil's in the party with vanilla agility anchoring. That's a bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah, there are plenty of options available with that vanilla anchor, and with this, being able to pick characters back up. Something I would consider doing, just depending on how things play out, is you can dismiss that Cecil, and then look to go for some sort of slingshot later on when you found gear that you're looking for. But knowing you have to get through a lot of these trap chests, there's also a big part of me that's thinking, well, if we have even some decent geared Cecil covering, can do a lot of help when you have to get through things early.
That's a good point too, but we do have underground access now. There has found the magma key on the top of Mount Ordeals, so that good edge gear is just going to sit. Who knows when or if we will even find the hook this route, because as of right now, we don't even know if it's required.
Well, that early underground access really, really sets a lot of options on the table. There are, with this K-Trap, there are so many places that you could potentially check. And this does really bring up the question of if you want to keep the Cecil on your team, because once you can get that Palom up to Quake, and if you can have Palom be Relative Agility 1, you can get those Quake casts off on everything in the Sylph Cave. But you are not going to get RA1 if you have Cecil on your team.
Nope. I mean, barring things like very low-level Cecil knocked out with a curse string on, things like that. But in reality, it's just not going to happen.
So this is going to create, I mean, this is a lot of routing questions that you now have to ask, and it looks like Wubear's answer is going to be trying to clear out these Eblin chests, which is some good XP, and you got 3 chances for a key item in here.
Yeah, I think getting that early experience on Cecil with these fights in particular is smart. It'll make it so that Baron in fights are a little bit easier to manage, as well as the battles in the Dwarf Castle. Because if you get Cecil, if he could survive all these fights, you get all the experience. Especially if we could get some life glitching in there. I'm not sure. It's going to depend on timing with Quorum because we can't buy life potions at shops this time. And I don't remember what our starting kit has with that in this one. But the more experience you can get on Cecil right now, the more powerful the party is going to be overall. He really is a very strong character in this game.
Yeah, and something like that Dragoon gear that we started with, if we end up on the moon hunting down key items, some of those trap chests have a grouping of dragons that just I grimace thinking about having to fight those with almost any party.
Yeah, that red-blue red-blue dragon trap chest is one of the scariest fights of the whole game, including like all the bosses, I think.
Oh, I agree with you on that one 100%. And 16 quick levels on Cecil. I think the rest of these are going to be pretty easy, and that's a fun key item right there.
We've got the hook, so now Edge is available to our party if we want it. So this is just paid off in spades for Wubear here.
Yeah, it's a huge pickup. That is that Edge. It's also 2 more trap chests that could be holding that darkness crystal, which is really all we're hunting for at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point. Both the Eblin Cave and the Upper Tower of Babel each have 1 trap chest in them. So that's something you can pick up if you like. We'll see if Wubear prioritizes that. Especially the 4 Mad Ogre chest is another good source of experience for Cecil here. The question is, if he wants to keep Cecil around, get those levels, does he want to ditch maybe Tella and just have 3 attackers and then the twins? Or does he still prioritize having the versatility of a Tella in the party?
Well, I mean, Tella's utility, I think, drains very quickly when you have both of the twins. I think once you have Quake and Berserk on Palom and Porum, respectively, if Tella's not serving that anchor utility, then he's really just maybe occupying a spot. Because as we see, 1 hit to Tella for most of these things is just going to leave Tella right back down staring at the floor as he is right now.
Well, the one thing to keep in mind is Palom doesn't learn Warp until a very high level. Ooh, that's an Excalibur, another great pickup for Wubear. But with no access to Warp other than Tella right now, that's a pretty important reason, because we mentioned that Warp glitch is active for the Dwarf Castle sequence as well.
Yeah, that is definitely something I try to keep in mind. That's it. When I get that underground access, I typically try to knock out that Dwarf Castle fight. With that Excal with the Cecil, I'm pretty sure those bosses at Dwarf aren't going to pose too much of a challenge.
True.
But I'm also a fan of just taking those Dwarf fights relatively early, because it is typically 2 bursts of 20,000 experience that comes at a pretty quick clip when you consider everything.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Not to also be lost in the shuffle, there was also a defense sword that both of our runners found here in Eblin as well. So I think there's plenty of people who consider that to be the best weapon for Kayn in the game. So both of our fighters at this point are really decked out very well in the offensive department.
Yeah, it's that question of those trap chests in the Sylph Cave are really the primary thing that you want that that Palom with RA1 with that Quake 4, because otherwise the Zerkers on these types of flags are just going to be, geared up real quick and putting out a lot of damage.
And Woobear finding the spoon in the left tower and an Avenger. Ooh, and more great weapons for Cecil and Kane. That's kind of like the wild card one. Makes them very strong for attacking, but that permanent berserk status is really good in a lot of situations and really bad in others.
You don't want to get caught out with that Avenger on in a fight where there's some sort of counter. Any physical counters, something like Golbez where you don't have time to get a wall up. But Avenger Excal Cecil that's a tough one to get rid of.
Well, I think this is good. Klepper making basically the same decisions as Woobear. So, going to get that hook, going to get that spoon, going to get that Excal, which he's going to get from this particular fight here, the 3 Mad Ogres. So, going to be on even ground again with both of our runners. Klepper still has that extra knowledge of the Kaipo checks that I don't think, not Kaipo, excuse me, Toria checks that I don't think Woobear has made, but it looks like he's ready to go into Evelyn Cave right now. We'll see if he wants that ninja or if he's just going to let the ninja sit in the Tower of Wishes for now.
Well, you do get to loot all of this if that's something that you're interested in. With the vanilla trap on, you know exactly where that trap chest is going to be. And we did pick up the spoon. As I saw in chat, some people thought maybe Woobear was headed to grab Spoonward, but we'll see if that comes into play. But for the time being, I think I'd rather have that edge and some real HP.
If we were lacking some firepower, if we didn't find like Defense Sword, Avenger, Excalibur, White Spear, Masamune, then Edward would be a real option with this early spoon, but since we've got what we've found, I just don't think it's necessary. And having that extra flexibility, especially if we end up deciding to have Edge in the party of being able to dart that spoon at one of those bosses, that would be pretty nice too.
Yeah, that's where my head's at when I have that spoon and I'm headed over to pick up an edge is, that's probably going to get chucked on one of those giant bosses pretty quickly. In my humble opinion, that's what I'm holding on to that spoon for.
Yeah, either that or the boss at the Masamune altar. I think those 3 are the big candidates. Whichever one seems to be really difficult at the time, I think.
Yep, and we are seeing some protect with Cecil here. The twins are both below the HP threshold where Cecil will just automatically defend them, and then we have this Avenger Sword going on the Kane. So this is a good use of that mechanic. Cecil's protect is something that I can never emphasize enough for players to keep in mind, even with vanilla agility. It almost makes up for how much faster the bosses move if Cecil can just absorb every single one of the hits.
That's not to be understated. I totally agree with you 100%. And here we've got the decision for Woobear. We've got the edge coming up, and we see CPU as the boss in the tower. Almost certainly not going to make that fight. But knowing that you're not going to see the CPU in any fights that you have to take going forward.
Yeah, there are... I don't know if there's a right or a wrong choice here, but I think maybe get rid of the Tella. Part of me would say, depending on where you plan on going next, you could even consider, dropping the Cecil just for the time being until you clear out that Sylph Cave. There are 7 trap chests in the Sylph Cave, which is the most potential checks, but that is going to be the hardest one to get through with the physical attacking party.
Now, there was a heroin robe that Woobear was able to find. If the equipment lines up nicely, it might be able to eke out a RA1 Quorum and get a mute out right away for those ghost fights. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's one option that you could have for the Sylph Cave as well.
That is a good point. There are also, I would think we're going to see that Dwarf Castle and that Warp Glitch before we start going for the Trap Chest, but there are, I believe, 4 in the tower. There's the 1 in the Fey March, the 2 Fey March fights. There are plenty of options if you're trying to just put those fights off until later as well.
It's also worth noting that Woobear did keep a Sylph summon that he found in the Evelyn Cave. I wonder if he's considering taking Rydia and taking that level 1, hoping that she survives in the second fight in Dwarf Castle so that she learns Warp and then can do the Warp Glitch after that too. So there's just so much going on with the party, and knowing what you've got in front of you, there's just a lot of balls that you got to keep juggling while you're making your decisions and routing on the fly here.
Yeah, definitely. And at this point, it really essentially is a hunt for the darkness crystal. So, if this is me racing this, anytime I make something like this hook play and run all the way over to those ogres and don't find the darkness crystal, that's just more time that somebody who maybe decided to just head right on underground. That's just a chance for someone else to be locating it. But this is going to be very curious. I don't know where I would start looking if somewhere like Dwarf doesn't provide that darkness crystal go mode.
That's a good point. And just for our watchers, we're taking a look at Woobear and Klopfer, but we have 24 people running this race tonight. And so there's a very good chance that some of them had taken that dive into the underground earlier and have started to make some of those checks in the underground, while Woobear is now following Klopfer's earlier checks and is going up into the Tower of Zot to do the Flame Dog chest that we saw earlier.
Yeah, I haven't seen Woobear check Bedward. We know it's just, a ribbon is a great piece of gear, don't get me wrong, but this is one of those situations where, even if you forget that there is a free key item from Eddie in the bed, it's not, we know at least that it's not going to be something that's going to absolutely change the outcome of this race.
And looks like both runners running with the same party at this point, as Klopfer also decides to ditch Tella for Edge. And I think, we were speculating as to whether or not they were going to make that decision, but I think with the longsword, with the boomerang, with the Mazamune, it makes sense to keep Edge at this point. So I don't think it's a big shocker that they decided to keep him.
No, I agree with you. I think this Cecil has so much utility right now. I might just route out the Sylph Cave until last, because you can just slam through everything underground besides, needing or having it be the best case to be RA1 with that Palom, because you can just put that off. You can always just grab that Tella. You could re-grab that Rydia. And I assume with the amount of levels we see them getting, if Palom survives both of those Dwarf Castle fights, he should be right about at the warp threshold of XP.
Right now, I just want to give a special shout out to Scala's niece, Hazel. Hi, Hazel.
Hi, Hazel.
Okay, and so now it looks like Woobear has decided to go to the Baron Inn here, and D missed to the second one. Now that we've got all this power on our physical attackers, this is a pretty slow spot, taken out with ease.
Yeah, that Avenger is going to get a lot of hits off. I'm not even sure if D-Miss did get a hit off. Woobear resetting out of that Aegis Shield back to... So had to have known that there was a free key item from Eddie, because I don't think otherwise you reset out of that.
Now
but it doesn't.
finally going underground.
Yeah. Very, very, very specific circumstances where you see somebody get a magma key that early and not immediately take that underground. But S cabins, you have T Wildish on. You are not in any particular rush. But
so PK, at this point, when you're going underground, if you've made all the decisions that Woo Bear has made up to this point, do you think you'd want to go Dwarf Castle right away, or would you go to the tower maybe?
I'm beelining into Dwarf Castle just with the hope that maybe that does contain the Darkness Crystal. It is in and of itself an objective, and as long as my Palom has that warp, then I'm at least going to knock that one out of the way. With this party, though, I would probably be headed up the tower afterwards before even going into the Fey March.
So it looks like Woo Bear has decided to make the trip to the tower. There are 4 trapped chests here that could give you potential key items. We can also fight the boss at the top, but we are lacking the tower key to do the final check in here. So we couldn't full clear it unless we find the tower key somewhere in the tower itself.
Yep, and this is where really you just start to feel like you're just gambling on which place you think is going to be the right one, because everybody else pretty much has underground access at this point.
Yeah.
You are very strongly hoping for, that's something to pick up right there as well.
Ooh. Yeah, I was about to say it's really nice that you're at this point with that Avenger that can one-shot those alerts, but man, the adamant armor, that is a nice piece of gear. One of the best pieces of equipment throughout the entire franchise of Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it is quite broken. This Kane one-shotting means you don't necessarily have to choose who you're going to put that on. But as long as the adamant armor is equipped on someone, that really puts them in the very unlikely to be hurt by just about anything situation.
Yeah, that makes Cecil cover strats that much better.
Yeah, we are getting some divergence here. That is a big pickup. I was neglecting that. I keep forgetting we still had to get Rosa, but now that Earth Crystal in that trap chest is going to complete that objective.
Oh, Klopfer must not have liked the boss or wants to set up something. I didn't see the sprite, so I'm not sure what it is, but it looks like Klopfer is making the trip over to Sylph Cave. Don't know if he's going to just go and talk to Yang at the bottom, or if he's going to try to take out some of the trap chests here. We'll see.
Well, the nice thing about Sylph Cave with this vanilla trap chest being on is the 6 of the 7 are all located literally in a line.
Yep.
So you don't have very far to go. If you get there, they can be a little tricky depending on your gear and what your agility situation is. But it looks like he's headed towards where those trap chests are. So this should be some more information.
So yeah, both Woo Bear and Klop are heading to places with very high density of potential key item checks. It's paid off for Woo Bear finding that Earth Crystal. Now we're going to find out if it's going to pay up for Klopfer.
There were some good pickups for Klopfer there. That Life Staff is going to be very nice for your white mages. We did see a Strength Ring. So you will have the ability, you'll be able to get a decent amount of curing in without draining all of your MP, but these fights are not super fun with a bunch of Zerkers.
Yeah, the ghost fights in particular are going to be very annoying to try to get through. And having just Flame on edge is not going to be great, because those ghosts absorb fire. Ooh, the Baron Key, the reward for beating Leviathan at the top of the tower Woo Bear got. Not required. If you want Sid, now you got that, but it also does give 2 potential key item checks in the completing a Baron proper and the Odin Throne.
Yeah, and our Blue Bear is now with that Earth Crystal. I had misspoke, forgetting that we needed either Earth or Sand Ruby to get Rosa, but Blue Bear now only needs the Darkness Crystal in order to be, in go mode. Still a lot to do once you get that Darkness Crystal, but that is the only key item left. So this is a very bizarre. I don't know how you route this. If you're Blue Bear, what is your thought here, Rex?
Probably go to Dwarf Castle to knock that out of the way. If you're able to do that warp glitch, that's even better. If not, I wouldn't worry about it too much at this point. There's so many other places that the Darkness Crystal could be, and it might just be accepting the fact that if that's where the Darkness Crystal is, that's just where it is, and that's too bad. And sometimes you've got to make that decision in a randomizer.
Yeah, I certainly have said to myself on a few occasions, well, if it's there, then I'm just going to lose. I'll just have to deal with that.
So remember, Klopfer took a look at this sprite, and it's a blue robe. So that could be, I don't think we've seen either one yet, so it could be either the Water Hag or the Alt Gauntlet. And it looks like it is the Alt Gauntlet.
It is the Alt Gauntlet.
This is something that the runners are going to have to face at some point. So it looks like Woobear are going to just bite the bullet and do it now.
Yeah, you have that Avenger. I'm curious to see how much these Flamecasts do. This is another one where, it would be convenient to have Palom acting first to be able to throw out something like the virus. But, with the amount of power you have, it's negligible. You're definitely getting through this.
Yeah, I think with the gear that we've got, the levels that we've got, this is not a particularly scary fight. It is time-consuming. But luckily, since Dwarf Castle is one of the objectives, you're not really losing any time on this because all of the runners are going to have to go through this.
Yeah, that's a very good point. This is a net neutral Alt Gauntlet. This isn't down in the Fey March and you're trying to gamble and hope that you get lucky. This is also, I would I would guess this is going to guarantee that you have warp if you don't already as well on that Palom.
Maybe. It's shockingly late that he learns warp, but it might be enough. It might be enough.
But either way, Klopfer, I don't think has pulled a key item out of this Sylph Cave. That is always my biggest fear if I try to dive these early, is that they don't pay off, because it's the densest check that you can make. But if it, for whatever reason, if you come out of it with nothing, you don't feel great about your prospects moving forward.
Ooh, there's a rat tail, so there is something. And we do have the hook, so that's something that Klopfer could check. So we might get a payout here for these checks here for Klopfer.
Yeah, right as I spoke, manages to pull out a rat tail. That we do have the hook in hand, so can immediately go check that upon leaving. I'm trying to think where I would hope that this Darkness Crystal is buried, and I keep thinking about that Baron Key and thinking that would be an interesting spot, because I doubt that's sort of your immediate idea when you have all of these areas open to you.
Yeah, the density of checks there is just so little compared to what we've got available right now. I imagine if I'm Klopfer, I'm probably checking that rat tail right away, though.
Oh, yes. Anything I pull out of that cave, I am making a run for, and there it is. We brought it up earlier, but Cecil has a very shiny outfit right now.
That is one fully powered paladin. Well, I say fully powered, but he could have an adamant armor, too.
The crystal sword is the adamant of swords, that's for sure.
That's true. Without a doubt, that weapon is busted. So yeah, we've got that's a payout too. So the rat tail and a crystal sword are both, it's a pretty good haul, I must say. We'll see if he decides to go. And there's one more trap chest, the old Toad Lady Tiny Toad fight, and you can also talk to Yang to start the Sheila chain as well. So, for making another trip into the Sylph Cave to do maybe both of those, just knock it all out of here while you're in the neighborhood. I like that strategy. So I like going back into the cave right now.
Yep, I did use a cabin, so I am going to guess was gearing up to get this Toad Lady fight out of the way. Such a bizarre fight. I love the Toad Lady, I've got to say. It's because if you kill the toads, she doesn't really do anything. She's just Toad Lady, and you're taking her toads away.
It's a very safe fight, but it can be very annoying.
Yeah, there's really no prospect of losing it because it's just going to be toad casts over and over. But they hit the wrong person, or the person that you have who can put out the most damage. It's you're going to have to be toaded a fair number of times.
Looks like Woo Bear going to go cash in that Earth Crystal right away. One of the meta objectives is to open but not loot the Troya Treasury. Let's see if Woo Bear decides to do that as well. He's definitely heading over to the Treasury. We'll see if he decides to loot it or just open it.
T Wildish being on, it is tempting to not just open it, but okay, go Woo Bear.
It is so tempting, but temptations mean nothing. I mean, we've got a very powerful squad already. We don't really need anything else. So if it was earlier in the seed, I think I'd be more inclined to just say, the heck with the meta objective. I want to get that stuff.
Yep, and I mean, maybe an adamant, maybe a crystal sword, but yeah, with this party, you're just trying to go fast. And this will allow Woo Bear to, I like this play because you are going to complete that Get Rosa objective. This will also leave Woo Bear right next to Baron in case that is a choice we want to make. We still haven't seen the free chests in the Fade March. We haven't seen Sheila 1. It is interesting that the typical routing you would usually see watching these races has just gone entirely out the window with these flags.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes, whether you're playing or watching the Legacy race from week to week, it's so different every time. More so than just the standard variation that you see from seed to seed. It's just wildly different each race, and I think that's what has been making this club be so successful recently.
Yeah, there have been a lot of races of it. When I first saw these flags, I thought, I don't know if this is going to be for me. But then the combination of knowing where all the trap chests are, knowing exactly where the characters are going to be, there's a certain amount of sort of comfort that you have when you enter one of these, because you have a pretty good idea of how you can do everything, even though, there is some vast difficulty that might present itself as well.
And that's what makes it exciting, as Woo Bear defeats the first boss in the Tower of Zot, being the 2 Baron guards. And of course, there's going to be Kane and Rosa as the characters up here. And we've already seen the Antlion in the second fight in the Dwarf Castle, and Klopfer is going to be facing that very shortly here. But the question is, who's going to be in the Valveless spot, and what is the key item going to be?
Yep, the acquiring Rosa, our wonderful tracker Kairu, we are only hunting for that Darkness Crystal for Woo Bear, at least.
Yeah, Klopfer hasn't gone to the tower yet, so hasn't gotten his hands on the Earth Crystal. Now, of course, the interesting twist with the Get Rosa is, that might not be necessary. If Klopfer can find the Sand Ruby somewhere else, then he wouldn't need the Earth Crystal in order to get Rosa. So I think that's one of the more interesting aspects of it. Of course, I imagine Klopfer would probably route in the tower pretty early. Having 4 trapped chests in there is just a pretty good density of checks.
Yeah, it is very difficult to pass up on those. If you have, even that Kane with that Avenger was one-shotting them for Woobear, so you don't have that concern that they're going to spawn an enemy. And that fight at the top of the tower makes a 5th key item check there, which next to the Sylph Cave, which we saw Klopfer already do, is the next densest. So I don't know. We might see the Fey March, but it's perfectly logical to want to go up that tower as quickly as possible as well.
Woobear deciding to take Rosa, get a White Mage kind of temporary downgrade for a long-term upgrade. Porum was pretty high level, but Rosa, if you level her up, the end game stats of her is just so good. So getting her into the party instead, she's not going to be a liability with the lack of exit, because through completing the Tower of Zot sequence, which Woobear is doing right now, Rosa will learn exit. So that is a storyline event that you have to complete the Tower of Zot for Rosa to learn exit. And so that's going to be in her arsenal for the rest of the scene.
Yep, it's one thing I noticed is the J spells flag is also on. And not that it would be a determining factor, but it takes Rosa something like level 55 to actually learn white with the J spells flag on.
Oh yeah.
So Porum, I'm not making the argument that Porum is the better white mage, but with these flags, if Reflect was the strat you were going for, Porum has an advantage of at least learning white several levels before Rosa does.
Was that the Darkness Crystal that Woobear got for completing the Tower of Zot? Now that loophole of the Sand Ruby, forget about that. That's not in play. You need to go to the tower, Klopfer. Okay, good. Tower it is.
Well, that is good news for Woobear. It is good to see Klopfer headed up the tower. We're never going to even go into the land of summon monsters this entire seed.
Nope. We are not. One thing that's really interesting about this is, it looks like Klopfer's a little bit behind. One advantage that Klopfer has, those trapped chests in the Sylph are pretty good sources of experience. So his power level is going to be a little bit higher once he gets up to the moon and starts tussling with these more difficult boss locations that are going on. So the question is, what's Woobear going to do in order to prep for these end game bosses that we have to do? Because we've got 2 in the Giant, we've got the Mazamune Altar. Is he going to take Fusia? There's so many things to think about at this point.
Well, my guess is Woobear is here specifically for that Fusoya. Yep, it looks like gonna replace. I believe that was the Palom, and Fu and Rosa are gonna be the 2 mages. I would guess we're gonna see the Giant before going all the way down to the Masamune Altar, because that thing is right next to Zeromus. That's probably what you want to do last.
Yeah, if you can route it that way, especially since neither of our runners were lucky enough in the early looting to find the pass in one of the chests. And at this point, you don't want to waste time by opening a lot of chests. You'd rather just go from where you need to go to where you need to go, key item check to objective and everything like that. So at this point, Woobear just wants to knock out the objectives. We're going to see if that boss is something that he can do at the levels he's got. A fully powered Fu can do a lot of damage to a lot of bosses, but this first boss has a lot of hit points.
Yeah, you're hoping not to run into something super physical. We did see, unfortunately, CPU is guarding the hook route. So that is one rude boss that I might have been interested to see. As a commentator, who would you like to see occupying this element spot, Rex?
The element spot in particular? Maybe something like Baigan would be an annoying one for somebody to try to deal with.
Baigan, I definitely agree with that. I was thinking maybe someone like Valvalis. But with this gear, I think almost anything will just be a nuisance as opposed to a real threat.
Yeah, that's the X factor is we've got adamant armor, we've got Avenger Cane, we've got a fully powered Fusia. We've got a lot. The only thing that we don't really have are a lot of levels. But hopefully that equipment that's been found is going to be enough to put us over the edge here. Here comes the moment of truth, the first boss in the Giant of Babel. That's a Mylon.
Yeah, one of the two Mylons shouldn't be too big of a... Oh, well, this is probably the slower of the two fights, considering you have that white spear and that X-Cal. But I think, as we mentioned before, this is when I am going to just figure out what I actually want to keep, and then Edge is just going to have a fire sale with every other item that Edge can get rid of here.
Yeah, for real. This is the sort of fight where you want to just chuck all your dartable items to try to get through, because that Mylon has the bulk of the HP in this fight by a large amount. And you just want to get through it as quick as possible. Mylon, once the gas are all taken care of, is going to counter everything with Lit 1s. It's going to cast Lit 1 a lot, occasionally do a punch. The Lit 1s are not scary, but they just take so much time, and you want to see as few of them as possible.
Yeah, this element spot has incredibly low magic and very high physical attack, so this is generally a pretty safe boss. Once you get rid of those gas, Mylon will bust out a couple physical attacks, which could be scary, but they're few and far between, and with this power, the lit ones are just going to occupy a lot of time.
Flopper has completed the tower, has the Earth Crystal. Hopefully he heads over to Zot right away.
Yep, looks like
he's gonna catching in that rat tail first. That makes sense. You've got the rat tail. Hopefully it's not long before it's Zot, though. There's other places that they can check. The incentive of completing the Rosa objective, though, I think hopefully will draw Klopfer there shortly.
Yep, and this did not offer anything else that you might want to chase. I think definitely Earth makes a lot of sense, yeah, specifically because you're at least checking off that get Rosa checkbox here.
Yeah. The gas are down in Woobear's fights. Now it's just get this cloaked figure out as quickly as possible with as few punches and as few Lit 1 casts as we can do.
Yep, although I am curious to see if we do see a punch or two, just because they hit for a very aggressive amount. If you do ever accidentally defeat Mylon before defeating the gas also decide that they want to get a little punchy, and I've gotten quad 9 by those in various spots where you didn't think anything would have enough physical power to do it.
Yeah, that's no doubt. Luckily, this of the two fights in the Giant, this one, the punchy is a little lower. The second fight, the CPU fight, that is a scary physical location.
Yeah, there's still... I mean, you have the Adamant on, you have the Cecil, probably not going to be any issue, but that CPU spot with an aggressive physical attacker can definitely at least slow you down, if not stop you all the way.
Now it's Klopfer's turn to see if we're going to open but not loot this treasury.
Oh, that is cruel, Zoe. That is so cruel. Just making them
it's open, it's not getting looted. Yeah, You love to see it. You love to see it.
You do love to see it. And we are through Mylon and Friends. That is a nice little chunk of experience. I think Rosa might still have gotten a slingshot on that as well. That's probably 200,000 XP for Rosa.
If so, that's going to be setting her pretty nicely for the end game here. Woobear's going to want to take all the trash involved are in the lunar subterranean, but this, if you're able to do this without a whole lot of new experience, really nice for that fight at the bottom of the in the Mazamune altar and the one at Zeramus.
Yeah, you'll get, well, with the 7 key items, you'll net 250,000 XP. If we did get a slingshot on Rosa, she'll net 350,000 XP, which with all the gear that we have is angling pretty close to being enough to defeat Zeromus, and this is a fun one.
Yeah, if there's someone that you don't want to see in a very strong physical spot, it is Dark Knight Cecil, lovingly referred to as the Pain Man. Yeah, this is pretty rough.
Yeah, and there are no cure 3s. There are no real curative items. So we see Woobear switching that adamant out, putting that ninja hat onto that Fusoya. It looks like trying to hopefully be able to get Fusoya a turn to cast a cure 4. But even that, as we saw, that's about 1,200 hit points a wave there.
Yeah, that's significant. That is a very difficult Pain Man fight here.
So this will be a test of how much healing you can get out. I believe that Rosa probably has Cure 3 as well. So gotten through the first round. We'll see if he gets through this, but this is one of those roadblocks that we were talking about.
Without a doubt. Looks like utilizing everything from the starting kit, those Cure 2s that were given at the start of the game, to try to get Fusia up into enough HP to survive this third wave. Know that nobody else is going to survive.
Now the question for me is who do you life up here at the end?
I think it's Rosa. Oh, it looks like it's Edge. Oh no, Cecil. Okay, Cecil makes sense too.
Cecil, okay. Because only one other person. Fu really isn't going to benefit at all from that 150,000 XP, but you want at least one person to get some of that. That sort of sets your plans back a little, though. You were kind of hoping to amortize that 150k across all 5 of those characters.
Without a doubt, and that kind of throws a wrench into the leveling plans for prepping for the Zeramus fight. So now it's going to be interesting to see what Woobear decides to do, and then what Klopfer does once he's in that same situation as well.
Yeah,
because Klopfer is right on the heels of Woobear right now, having completed that, gets the Darkness Crystal, and is ready to head to the Giant.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the bonus chest that we saw Klopfer do not only netted him some bonus levels, but it also got him a Crystal Sword. So going to be able to put out a little more damage. That Cecil's going to have more hit points. You know, part of me was wondering if at Battle Speed 6, if you just took that Crystal Sword through the Avenger on Cecil with that Crystal Sword, because you can, Pain Man, you know, if you do the amount of damage that exists in that spot, is another way to defeat Pain Man. And that would only be about 3 or 4 swings from a well-powered Crystal Sword Cecil.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I at that like 1,200 HP per wave, I don't know if it's going to be enough though. It's tough. it might work, but Woobear found a way that works though. So big ups to Woobear.
Yeah, Woobear's gotten through. Only one remaining objective. That is the walk all the way down to the bottom of the moon. Yes, as you mentioned, there is a pass located somewhere, or multiple passes spread throughout some of these treasure chests, but the Masamune altar pretty close to Zeromus to begin with, so that's going to be a quick walk. At least you get to route this effectively, so that the pass would maybe have been nice to see, but I don't think it would save you any time the way that these objectives played out.
Right. If it was, if the K unsafe had come into play and we were looking for a way underground while already on the moon, then it would have been a different situation and you'd really be hoping to find that pass. But in this situation, since you know that you're going to be able to complete everything else before this last objective, might as well not even bother opening chests because you don't need the pass. You're going to just walk to Zeromus anyways.
Yep, we've already seen the Alt Gauntlet. That's my favorite Alt Gauntlet location is the Masamune, because that's when you get to see those evil masks.
Yeah, those evil masks are a rude fight too. Now Klopfer is going to get the easier of the two fights, but the long fight in that Mylon fight. But has that crystal sword. Like, I imagine that this fight in particular will go faster for Klopfer than it did for Woobear. Though it is interesting, Klopfer did not make that pit stop of the Lunar Dais to get Fusia, rolling with the twins still as his magic users.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a question of, probably anticipating that you were going to get that 350 or that 250,000 experience from these two fights combined. Unfortunately, as we know, there's no way you're going to keep everyone alive for that Dark Knight Cecil fight. So still has the option of picking up that Fu. You'll be curious to see if Klopfer decides on the way down, hey, let me take that Fu, either as to replace Palom or to replace Porum, depending on what your ideal is for this your eventual Zeromus fight here.
And we find the Water Hag, one of the most free fights in the game. So yeah, that one was done easy, and Woobear has now completed all the objectives. Should be getting the crystal here and the Luca key.
Yeah, so it's sort of really, I'm curious. I think Zeromus is potentially doable at these levels, but definitely shaking your fist at Pain Man right now, because Rosa is not quite where you would like Rosa to be if you're going to rely on her to be getting you through this Zeromus fight for your healing.
Yeah, the question is, and Fusia is another one who's always just on the edge of survivability on those big bangs. So one option could be to move that adamant armor back over to Fusia and try to just tank the things, but instead looks like Woobear just wants some more experience. Taking that vanilla D lunar spot, finds Mylon Z. Shouldn't be too difficult of a fight for him here.
No, I'm not sure if Woobear kept that white spear, that X-Cal is going to do work. This is a pretty good fight if what you're thinking is, I want some XP and I want it quickly. There could be slower fights at this spot, but this is your Cecil is going to put in some real quick work here.
Yeah, just don't try to use Quake to defeat Mylon Z. Just because
you can't see it. You can't see from here, but Mylon is just a fraction of a centimeter floating off the ground.
He's definitely flying, that's for sure.
Yeah, you could throw a boomerang on your edge and take advantage of that. Rosa with the bow, if she still happened to be equipped with that, would get bonus for 25 seconds, and Mylon's already floated away.
That gets a number of experience levels. That's a very high experience fight. So That kind of shores up some of the level deficiencies. Still not as good as the spot in the giant would have been, but you take what you can get.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is Wu was just gonna hope with that adamant and that protect ring on Rosa that she can survive those big bangs. And
yeah,
she's pretty well kitted.
She's very well equipped, but her levels are still pretty low, less than 1600 HP. That's going to be tough. But the counter side is Cecil and Kane and Edge are going to be doing a lot of berserking damage. So even if you take a second big bang, hopefully Zeramis will fall before anything else happens after that. Klopfer now getting the bad news that the second fight is this Dark Knight.
And
he still has the Avenger equipped.
Yep. You mentioned that earlier. There are situations where you do not want that Avenger equipped, and every time you hit Dark Knight Cecil, that resets the number of waves that you have to absorb.
So he's going to adjust. Meanwhile, we need to ask a very important question. Why don't you go ahead and ask it, PK?
Oh, we have hit the moment. I see these flags out here. I guess it is time to ask, whose butt are we gonna kick tonight?
We have reached butt time, so we are about to see the Zeramis sprite for tonight. Let's see if it's a fun one. They usually are. Scala Kitty does such a great job with them.
Yeah, Scala Kitty has done amazing work. We still do not have a finisher of. We are watching two runners here. There are 24 participating in this race, and no one has finished yet. So, Wu Bear very well might be, if this fight can be taken quickly and in this first try, might have a good shot at first here.
Oh, that was rough. Klopfer had the Cure 2 queued up to heal enough to survive that last wave, but Dark Knight Cecil got it in just before, so very close call on that second attempt. I'm going to have to go for it again, making some adjustments, and we have 0 Muzz.
Yeah, that Cecil for Klopfer at right around 2200 is just below. Is sort of, if that Cecil was up right around 2400, you would be able to heal almost, that ideal quantity where you can get back above being able to absorb 2. But in the case here, did use the elixir, so good for Klopfer. It should be through here. Yeah,
I think that's a very smart usage of the elixir. One of them that sometimes people try to save for the Zeramis fight, but if there's a really difficult boss like this one, where that's the way that you're going to be able to defeat this boss easily, just take it, and worked well for Klopfer. Now is going to be, still has to fight that water hag, so that's going to be a challenge, I'm sure.
Yeah, with this team, maybe that's the one where you do want the Avenger still equipped, as opposed to Dark Knight Cecil.
That's true.
I didn't know you actually used elixirs. I thought when you played Final Fantasy games, the goal is to just hoard them until after you've beaten the game, and then realize that you never actually used any of the elixirs.
Yeah, I could have been so much more aggressive as a kid. I played everything so safe. But one thing that isn't safe is Zeramis. But we got through the first Big Bang, which was nerfed. Very well done. It looks like, I think that was the second one was also nerfed. I think Wu Bear is doing a very good job keeping his characters healed while letting his Avenger Kane and Berserk Cecil do a lot of work here. So, yeah, very smart. Using slow again. With no J items in chests and S cabins, you're not seeing any of the silk webs that you really ideally use to slow down Zeramis. So 2 casts of slow will do the trick as well.
Yep, and Woobear's Cecil was at that 28 agility mark. Quite fortunately, 1 agility tick below that, and Zeromus would have been a fair amount faster, but did manage with those 2 fights to... we can say that was perfectly planned out, but I would be a little suspect if that were the answer he got from Woobear. But 28 agility Cecil means that as far as vanilla agility, this is the best agility you're going to have against Zeromus.
Honestly, that might have been the reason for doing that fight against what turned out to be Mylon Z, was to get Cecil up to that 28 agility, because that's a pretty important number, as you just mentioned.
Yeah, I certainly would have, considered taking that fight specifically for that reason. It did get some much needed levels regardless. So I think even if, you ended up at 27, you're probably still going into Zeromus, but that is a fortunate number to have ended up at with that Cecil. Particularly, I mean, you have these 3 Zerkers swinging, you're getting almost 10,000 a turn from this round of Berserkers. So, yeah, as you mentioned, Rex, probably a second Big Bang we'll see, but then I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see a third.
Didn't see another shake, though, and so we might see Meteor, we might see Big Bang, and that's the thing. It looks like using the crystal to try to nerf this next Big Bang. If you can time it right, it makes managing Big Bangs a lot easier.
And in my experience, I believe that timing was correct, but the Big Bang tells all, so we will see very shortly.
Well nerfed. Nicely done there by Woobear. Just really, really well executing this. I mean, I wouldn't call this a low-level fight, since we've got some strats where people can take care of Zeromus at very low levels. But this is a bit underleveled for a traditional Berserker strategy, and Woobear is just playing it very well. And we've got some rocks falling.
Yeah, those are rocks. Cure 4 comes out. Cecil wasn't even hit by that Meteo, so I am quite certain we're going to get through. Of all people to get hit as well, that Edge was, a very good sacrificial lamb for that nuke, and that is the Flash. And Woobear has finished in second place, coming in first place a paltry 36 seconds before Woobear put the dot done in his Antidale. So Woobear does take second, first among the restreams. So GG's to Woobear.
Yeah, everybody, you got your GGs out. Big shout outs to Woobear. Well done, well played. Just with a flag set that was really bizarre and like some crazy things going for you. Just like handled a lot of the things that were pretty difficult out there, like that Dark Knight Cecil fight, like an unexpectedly low XP Zeromus fight, and just handled them very well.
Yeah, made it through that seed really without issue. Definitely, decided to take that Cecil, stick with it, and really, outside of I think every single person who's playing this flag is going to take one reset to that Dark Knight Cecil. But other than that, really didn't run across any actual roadblocks.
And now Klopfer is making the walk down to Zeromus. Was checking some equipment and some stats. I wasn't paying attention to the numbers, so I don't know exactly where they're at. But it looks like at least he thinks that he's ready to go. So we're going to all root for him now, as he's going to take on Zeromus, or should we say Zeromus?
Yes, and I believe we will be joined shortly by Woobear. Klopfer does have the advantage of that crystal sword, so even if that agility is slightly more more wonky, that Cecil's going to be hitting for a good 35% more than even the X-Cal we saw from Woo Bear.
Yeah, I believe Klopfer also has the adamant armor on Cecil as well, so that's just even more power to that paladin.
But we are joined by Woo Bear. GG.
Thank you.
Now, we were speculating, but did you when you decided to take that ribbon room fight for the bonus XP, were you hoping to get that Cecil to exactly 28 agility, or were you more concerned about Rosa's survivability?
A little of both. A little of both. I wanted the 28 agility, and her HP was too low, and it was still kind of low after the fight, but I got the nerf, so no big deal.
Yeah, the timing on all those nerfs on Zeramus was really well done, I must say. For a little bit lower level that you might want to be there, especially with Rosa, it was well played.
Thank you. Yeah, out of all the practices I've done, that's by far the lowest level I've been. Usually I'm full bearing, entire moon, trap chest, everything, so...
Yeah, this was a surprisingly, when we saw the objectives, the first thought was pretty much, this could be faster than a lot of the ones that I think we've participated in the lead up to this. And you also, you get through that Mylon and Friends very admirably, and I'm sure you were hoping for that 150,000 XP on your entire party.
Yeah.
I kind of froze up. I think at the end I might have been able to get a Cure 4 off with Fu, but I was like, that wasn't I wasn't thinking I was going to get to his turn and be able to get a smell off, but it's fine.
So when you saw the flag set that you're going to have this week, and especially with the vanilla characters and everything that was presented to you, what was your initial thoughts, and how did it end up playing out, especially with this scene?
I enjoy it because, like, before the game even started, I had my party set up on my tracker. It was Kane, Cecil, Twins, and Tella, and that's what I've been doing. And it's really nice because you get the early twin right off the bat to clear anything really on the overworld. And there's almost always really good weapons for Cecil, so I always try and keep him, or I have been.
Yeah, and you got that Excalibur in the Evelyn Castle. There was a lot of goodies in that. Is that a favorite looting for you in this sort of situation with the vanilla trap chest?
Oh, on T Wildish especially, yeah. It's one of the best spots in the game for sure. And since you're already doing the trap chest for key items anyways, like it's just, yeah, tons of value. I was really happy when I got that white spear immediately, and then I got like 3 more within the next.
Yeah. There is, great loot in this. I love Cave Eblin, particularly with the vanilla trap chest on, because you can just, you don't get caught off guard by running into the Steelman. You get to hit that save point after looting everything, and then you're really prepared to go into that fight.
Absolutely. I didn't even save walking in there because it's like, okay, I know where it is, don't have to get surprised. And I just seen on the playback the Sand Ruby was in well, I guess you didn't need 7. Never mind. I forgot Zot actually led to darkness, right? So
it did. Yeah, we were thinking, because you had found the Earth Crystal while Klopfer was doing some of the clearing out of Sylph Cave, checking those trap chests while you were checking the tower ones. And we were thinking, like, well, Klopfer might miss that one, but if he finds the Sand Ruby, he'll still be able to get Rosa. But then it turns out you needed that Earth Crystal anyways. So no matter what, you'd have to go through that Zot in order to get the Darkness Crystal. So
yeah, it worked
really. Yeah, the routing choices that you made really helped out, I think.
Yeah, my plan was I didn't quite have warp. I got rid of Telic, so I didn't quite have warp. So I was like, okay, I'll do tower right quick, get some levels to get warp, do Dwarf Castle, and then I was going to swap out Rydia for Cecil and do Self Cave if I had to. But then I chased the Zot and not let darkness, and that was that. So it was cool. But I had it all planned out.
We're throwing big GGs to Klopfer, who just defeated Zeramus, finished in 5th place at 1 hour, 20 minutes, and 20 seconds. So GG's to both of our stream runners today. Do you have any final thoughts tonight, Woobear, on this flag set or Legacy in general?
No, I've been loving the Legacy League. It's been super fun, minus the push me to jump thing, but it's fine. That's just me. I haven't played it before, so I don't really know it. So I'm like, eh. But no, it's been super fun. So kudos to Zoe for setting this up. It's been awesome. Yeah, looking forward to seeing what Antidale picks for next week.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us, and thank you for letting us watch your race tonight.
Thank you. Good night.
Yep, GG's to Woobear, and I believe we are joined by Klopfer, who at minute 20:20 took 5th place. GG Klopfer.
GG's, thanks.
Well played. I think the big elephant in the room was I saw you in your second attempt against that Dark Knight Cecil, and you had that tier 2 queued up, and the wave came in just before Cecil acted, and it's like, if that tier 2 would have gone up, you would have survived that wave, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not too sure what change I made in between those two, but the turn orders came up in a different order, so I was actually expecting to be able to elixir with that Cecil, but it didn't, so I just rearranged my party for the third attempt and definitely got Cecil as the third turn order, and then it was no problem just elixiring and being totally safe.
Yeah, that was really, I think, smart use of your items, knowing that you had that elixir to make sure that Cecil was going to survive that third wave. So well played there. You made some other plays that were at least different from what we saw in Woobear. Once you got underground, you decided to go to that Sylph Cave right away. Is that a place that you really like to go in this kind of flag set when you've got the K-Trap?
Definitely. I mean, there's just so many trap chests there that you just get all those checks. It's actually a really good source of experience as well. I actually did swing over to Dwarf Castle first, since it was a required check here. I was going to do that, and then I actually reset out when I realized I didn't know if I knew Warp yet, and I checked my level, so I didn't, and went over to Sylph Cave and went, definitely by the time I finish this, I'll know Warp, and I'll come back and do Dwarf Castle at this point. Although, given the gauntlet, I probably could have just done Dwarf Castle and have gotten the experience to do Warp, but anyway.
Overall, it seemed...
I was just going to say, there's definitely just the trap chest greatly changes the orders, and just going to check places like the Evelyn Castle check definitely happens. I try to wait to get a few levels before going and visiting Bedward, as then I can grab Flame Dog at the same time, like especially just knowing Ice 2 makes that easy enough to do. In this case, when I saw the hook, that was definitely a pause moment of I can already go underground with the Magma Key and check all those other trap chests. But if the Darkness Crystal's over here, I just got a huge jump ahead of everyone who isn't doing this. So I went ahead and did the Stalemen and the Mad Ogre chest there, which unfortunately didn't pay off. But I got an edge out of it, so I didn't feel too bad.
Yeah, the way that these objectives lined up, you just kind of had to pick and choose where you wanted to gamble.
For sure.
And yeah, the bonus of getting that edge, given the gear that you had, definitely made sense to me.
I felt good at Ceromus just being able to throw the entire arsenal at him. I had plenty of choices of high damage weapons to just keep throwing there.
Yeah, that T-Wildish does provide a small arsenal for Edge to throw a bunch of things, right?
Yeah, exactly. In this case, I was trying to remember which ones I could. It's like, do I want extra crystal swords? No, but Excaliburs are good. I'll keep those for darting. So there's definitely some pauses you saw as I got these high tier items on. Do I keep that or not? Because inventory management is a big challenge here. Exactly. Yeah, I'm not sure if you noticed. I was in there trashing a bunch of items a few times in this run, and there's definitely times where I meant to discard and grabbed it anyway, or meant to grab it and discard it and had to pick it up again. So inventory boss is definitely the boss of this flag set.
Yeah, everything is just too good, right?
Exactly. I really do want it all. It's just there's a limited inventory space, so you have to be a little choosy.
Well, and I mean, you may not have gotten exactly what you wanted out of the Sylph Cave, but that it did net you that crystal sword, which, that was the only one we saw between the two runners.
Oh,
so,
sure.
I mean, if you're going to keep that Cecil, that crystal sword is quite the attachment.
I was definitely happy to see it. The second I got that one, immediately time to open up menu, even though I try to condense menus, do a few different equips at the same time, but that's one I'll make an exception for and immediately put that on.
You can't blame you there. Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rex.
I was just going to say, did you have any other kind of final thoughts about this this particular race or flag set, or just like the Legacy Club in general?
So definitely, Legacy is a lot of fun. I'm very much enjoying kind of getting these slight mutations on the flag set. So you're learning as you go through each of these weeks, and how to get through these seeds quickly. And each week, that slight change, it's like, all right, what does that do to my usual plans? Can I still do everything I was doing before or not? Like, for example, Get Rosa has been a requirement for quite a while now, but I always kind of treat that as it was free. With all these free characters, I'm going to find a Rosa pretty quickly. That's not a problem. Here, it's like, oh, I need a key item. I need to start looking for my Earth Crystal or Sand Ruby in order to get that Rosa. So it's nice in how it kind of throws that twist onto how you've been thinking about getting through the flag set before.
Definitely.
Well,
yep. GG.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, big thanks to the Restream team, the commentators, and everyone for putting this together. It's always a lot of fun every week. Thanks.
And that was our 5th place runner tonight, second on the Restream, Klopfer. Big shout out to both Klopfer and Woobear. Our Restream runner tonight. Also give a shout out to Solaris, who's been doing the Restream tonight, as well as Kairu on the tracking. Of course, we've got my co-commentator PK. This was really fun tonight.
Yeah, I had a great time. It's always a pleasure, Rex. And I believe we have a raid target if you want to take us out.
Yeah, we're going to take everybody over to Possum Morpheus, who's running this exact same race. So please, if you go there, no spoilers about what you saw and the finish, because they're running the exact same speed as this one. Hope you all enjoy and have a wonderful evening now. Take care.
Yes. Throw out your hashtag blame possums when you get there.